Evening, everyone. This is Phil Cuzzy, and welcome to the 17th annual, I would say, Robert Luongo dinner. But of course, this year we're doing anything but a dinner. But it is a very special night.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, their bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. God, our Heavenly Father, giver of every good gift and blessing, we call upon you this evening as we come together virtually via Zoom this evening. We come with the purpose of raising funds for community awareness for the Robert Luongo ALS Fund, now in its 17th year. Father, we ask your blessing on Robert's family and his friends, upon Phil Cuzzy, who began this fund 17 years ago and has overseen this cause with great enthusiasm, passion, selflessness, and dedication. We ask you to bless the efforts of all those involved in this most worthy undertaking. Please bless our efforts to raise funds for patient care, for research, the work of the doctors, the researchers, and the ALS Association. And because of the generosity of all present online, much fruit has been borne because of everyone's combined efforts under Phil's leadership and his guidance. Bless everyone, Lord, during this terrible pandemic, the scourge that we've endured this past year. Comfort the many who have lost loved ones and are suffering. We pray for an end to all this so that everyone will be able to return next year in person, and may all of us and our loved ones arrive safely with good health, happiness, and prosperity, and virus-free. May your blessing remain with us so that we accomplish what is right and good in your eyes. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
I've always had an interest in ALS. I was a big baseball fan growing up, so I didn't know Lou Gehrig, but I obviously always knew the story. Our donors are the ones that get us going and get things started. They allow us to take our really good ideas that really aren't ready for prime time yet, but they look like they could work, and that's what enables us to go to the lab and say, yeah, this is working.
When I joined as a PhD student, MD PhD student, the Luongo funds directly impacted my ALS research in Dr. Connor's lab. We worked on biomarkers that are still being investigated, the pathways, in ALS research now.
Since watching my godfather die of ALS a couple years ago, I was really passionate to go into researching this disease that is fairly underrepresented with few therapeutic options. So finding the opportunity to join a lab with such a strong foundation in ALS research was just such a great opportunity for me.
In a nutshell, what the Luongo funds have done is allowed us to start a path that has students of the caliber of Bill and have a continuum that allows us to attract students such as Savannah now coming in without those funds sort of underlying the research, allowing us to have funds available for student training, we simply wouldn't have the opportunity to bring in a new and highly qualified student each year.
You know, we always say research is hope.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jill Yursak, the Vice President of Mission Strategy at the ALS Association. Thank you for a chance to say a few words. And thank you, Phil, and all of you for your tremendous generosity to the ALS Association over the many years that we have partnered together to end ALS. Your donations to ALS research have made a huge impact to fund the most promising research all over the world. And COVID has not stopped us. We continue to work hard to drive research towards finding cures and treatments for ALS. And we currently fund over 160 active projects in 13 countries all over the world. And I want to briefly share a couple of these exciting research updates with you tonight. Right now, there are 3 end-stage phase 3 clinical trials going on that we expect results from this year, all of which are very promising, meaning up to 3 new drugs could come to market in 2021. 2 are small molecules and 1 is a gene therapy. The gene therapy out of Biogen would be the first of its kind for ALS on the market. That means that people carrying mutation or a change in SOD1 gene that the drug specifically targets could potentially benefit from a significantly slowing of the disease. And once this happens, I'm confident it will open the floodgates for other new gene therapies to come to market, targeting the other 30+ genes known to cause genetic or inherited ALS. And this is just a very small sample of all the exciting research your donations have helped to fund over the years. And remember, we will not stop in the face of COVID, and we'll do everything we can to end ALS for good. And I think we are closer than ever. Thank you for having me and for your tremendous generosity for ALS research in honor of Robert. Your support has made a huge impact in helping us finding a cure for ALS. Thank you.
We have some very special guests, and I'm going to start off by introducing Bob Costas, who has been to our dinner a handful of times, and he's going to introduce other guests who have also been to our dinner. So, Bob, thanks for joining.
Phil, as always, a pleasure, even if we don't get the great buffet dinner at Nanina's in the park, and we don't get Uncle Floyd to regale us with his comedy stylings. More important, all 3 guests, Joe Torre, Bucky Dent, and Bobby Valentine, have been guests in person at the Robert Luongo dinner. Everything we raise tonight will go to the Robert Luongo Fund, medical care, college scholarships, and support for the children of ALS victims, all of it going to that cause. And Phil, you can fill those who have entered into this Zoom and watching this tonight on the particulars about that. And I'm sure that where to go, the website and everything will appear on the screen. So our purpose here over the next half hour or so is just to do what we would do if we were able to be together in person, which is shoot the breeze about baseball. So I'll turn first to Joe Torre. Joe, later this month on January 26th, they'll announce the new Hall of Fame electees, if there are any, and we assume that there might be some. As someone who is in the Hall of Fame, can you possibly explain to people what it means to be part of that fraternity? And fingers crossed that we can get together in Cooperstown and actually have an in-person ceremony, what it's like to be in and around Cooperstown on Hall of Fame weekend.
You know, Bob, I never during my career ever gave a lot of thought to the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's not that I didn't respect it and I didn't respect those guys who were there, but it was just the fact that I really had no control over it. You know, I just went out and did what I did, and then someone else decides if you're worthy. And so when I was excited, actually, when Jane Clark called me that Sunday morning, we were in Orlando. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning. I scuffled picking up the phone and I hung up on her. I'm just glad I'm glad she called me back. And it was an excitement I can't explain. It was all of a sudden you're in that area and in that club with very special people. And then when the induction day came and I go into the Otesaga Hotel on that Thursday, and you look around and you kiddingly say, look at this, these guys, they're all Hall of Famers. And the first one to come up to me, and I'll never forget this, may his soul rest in peace, was Al Kaline. And it was such a great welcome because he said, well, they're all special guys, but he was such a special gentleman. And I haven't felt any different since. It never goes away. It's a nice feeling. It's a special feeling. You're in this group of where people feel that you belong with the elite, and it's been a lot of fun for the last 5 years.
All three of you managed in the big leagues. Phil Cuzzi is the umpire who was the close friend of Robert Luongo, who has put this together for 17 consecutive years. Phil, I'll start with you. Have you got a run-in with a manager story? And then we'll turn the tables and let Joe, Bucky, and Bobby tell theirs.
Well, I think out of this very distinguished group, I think that Bobby was the only person that I had to excuse early, if my memory serves me. I never.
Yeah,
that's
Phil.
putting it in a nice way, Philly.
It was that one time, Joe. I asked him if he would throw me out if he knew what I was thinking, and he said no. And then I told him what I was thinking, and he said, yeah.
One of just 4 hits he's had off of him in 18 at-bats. Top step time of year. 2-2 pitch. Got him on the outside corner.
He usually goes the other way with it. Bobby Valentine not happy with the call, but
Bobby just got thrown out. Somebody got thrown out. Phil Cuzzi just threw somebody out, and I think it's Bobby Valentine. And now he's going to get his money's worth. He was yelling, what a disgrace, after that last pitch. And this may take a while. He wants to know why it was thrown out.
That's a funny point because people don't realize sometimes, and I'm asked a lot as an umpire, what are they really saying when the managers come out? What is it they're really, and sometimes you'd be very surprised. So I'll share one story, and then I'll ask if you guys, having all managed, have anything that's similar. We were working a weekend series in Boston, and it was Boston and Kansas City. And on the Friday night, in the 9th inning, 3 Boston hitters were hit by pitches, and we didn't really deem it intentional. And off we went. And then we talked about it in the locker room after the game. And Jerry Crawford was the crew chief, and he said, "Listen, nobody likes to be hit. We don't think it was intentional, but just be ready for tomorrow," because I was on first, so I would work the plate the next day. Well, the first inning. The top of the first inning, Mike Sweeney hits a 2-run homer. The next pitch to Raul Ibanez was behind his head. Intentional, no question about it. And I ejected the pitcher, Casey Fossum, off the mound. And he didn't say anything. He didn't fuss. He just kind of walked off. And manager Grady Little, here he comes, and he said, he gave a little bit of a fuss, and he said, "Well, Phil, in his southern drawl, he said, Phil, if you're going to eject my pitcher in the first inning, you're going to have to eject me." And I said, "Come on, Grady, don't make me have to eject you too. Come on, it was textbook. It was, that it was, I said, I don't have to write 1 report. Don't make me have to write 2. And this went on for a little bit, and finally he said, "No, you're going to have to eject me." And I said, "Well, Grady, tell me why it is that that he did that and it was intentional. And so why do I have to eject you?" And he said, "Well, Phil, if you ejected my starting pitcher in the first inning, I really don't have the nerve to sit out here and see what's going to come out of my bullpen for
That's great.
Because it took so long, I gave him so much time to try to talk him out of it. The league actually gave me credit the next day for giving Grady his say.
That's fantastic. Bucky, what do you got?
Well, I didn't get thrown out as a manager because I wasn't managing very long in the big leagues. I was under George, and I didn't stay very long. And I was in that time when he fired a lot of guys. But I have some good ones when I was a player. Nestor Shalek was always one of my favorite umpires. And when I came up as a rookie, my first game, I'm playing shortstop, and we're playing in Detroit. And I don't know all these guys, and Gates Brown's on first, and Willie Horton's hitting. And I'm going, oh my God, this guy's going to kill me. I'm going to have to come across this bag and get rid of it real quick. Well, sure enough, he hits a ball to George Orta at second base, and I come flying across the bag, and I throw, and actually Gates ran out of the baseline. And so I come back out the next inning, and I'm standing there, and I hear this guy go, psst, psst. And I turn around, and it was Nestor, and he goes, hey, kid. And I go, what? He says, how about touching the bag next time? He says, I'll never call it on you, but how about touching that bag next time? And I said, yes, sir, I sure will. And then a few years later, I had another one with him. We were playing Kansas City, and Busby's pitching, and Fran Healy's catching. And we're playing in Chicago, and the shadow was really bad. So Busby throws a ball right on the black, calls it a ball. Fran Healy turns around and looks at him, and Nestor didn't say anything. So the next pitch, he throws this ball, same spot, and he goes, strike. And he looks around at Fran, and he looks at me, and he goes, okay, that's one for you and one for you. Let's play, But, there were some good guys. I enjoyed a lot of the guys in the time that I played, talking to them and stuff like that. But I never got thrown out as a manager as far as in the big leagues. Like I said, I wasn't there long enough.
Bobby V, what do you got?
I got thrown out 18 times by 18 different umpires. So, they didn't ever hold a grudge, that's for sure. But, one of my awakening in like 1971, I was 21 years old. I was playing shortstop up in Candlestick. There was a big Dodgers and Giant rivalry. It was McCovey and Mays, and it was Wills and Willie Davis, and Bill Singer was on the mound, and Bill was known to have some stuff once in a while on his finger that made the ball do some dances. And the Giants were complaining for 5 innings. And finally, Charlie Fox came out, went to old Al Barlick behind the plate and insisted that he go out to the mound to check Bill Singer. And my heart was bopping in up and down, worrying about my buddy Bill Singer, because I could see the stuff glistening in his hair on this Sunday afternoon at Candlestick, And I go, I wonder what's going to happen. He went out, he looked at his glove, and then he looked at his belt, and then he took his hat off and he rubbed his hand around his hat. And he had all this gook on his hand after he did it. And he gave the hat back to Bill. And he turned to Charlie Fox and he shrugged his shoulders and he says, I can't find a thing. And then he looked over his shoulder as he was walking back to home plate at Singer. It says, wipe off some of that shit in between innings, will you, kid? And I went, oh, I guess I know what's going on here.
Remember 25 years ago, at least, more than that, probably close to 30, in Minnesota, Joe Niekro has an emery board in his back pocket. Yeah. And Steve Palermo and Dave Phillips' crew, right? And Steve Palermo, I can still see the late, great Steve Palermo. He's like this. He's like this, like, okay. And they're in effect, they're frisking him. And we're watching for everything. And Joe tries to flip the emery board out of his back pocket. Where's it going to go? It lands on the side of the mound. And then he's like, oh, I have no idea what possibly could have happened here. Right?
So it was good. It was great the way the umpires always let the players play, and the players knew what was going on. And it was a wonderful fraternity, not only amongst players and other managers and other players, but the umpires were in on the game also.
Joe, I know you didn't like to get in an umpire's face, especially toward the end of your career when you're with the Yankees. You're trying to keep things smooth and level, but there were times when you just had to. Have you got a good story coming out of one of those?
You know, I'll try to make it quick. I have a couple I like to tell. One was Doug Harvey. Doug Harvey, he was going to retire at the end of the year, and he says to me, "I'm managing the Cardinals," and he says, "Do you know that you're the first one I ever threw out, my first ejection?" I said, "No, I didn't know that." He says, "Wouldn't it be great if you were my last one too?" and I said, "All right, well, let's see what happens." So fast forward, we're in Shea Stadium. It's September, meaningless game. In the middle of the game, you know, Doug is behind the plate. I said, "What better time?" You know, we were winning about 4 or 5 runs. And all of a sudden there's a pitch and he calls it, and I start yelling from the dugout, you know, and then Doug looks at me and he's going, "What?" And because he's confused. What the hell am I complaining about? You know, so I go out and he's coming over toward the dugout and he looks at me and he says, "What?" I said, "This is it. This is it." "This is what?" he said. I said, "You wanted me to be the last guy you threw out. Well, here I am." And with that, he went, "Get out of here." You know,
That's great.
And I walked back in the dugout, and in the clubhouse, my players had no clue what was going on. They thought somebody was insane, and probably both of us. But my funny experience during the course of a game as a player, no, as a manager still, was I was managing the Braves, and Dale Murphy hit one, and boom, boom. It just looked like he, you know, was safe at first base. And Dutch Rennert called him out with the big, you know, fist over. We called him out, and I run out to first base, and I said, "Dutch," and I love Dutch Rennert. I mean, I got along with all the umpires pretty much. But I went out to Dutch. I said, "Dutch, how come you're such a good ball strike umpire and so horseshit on the bases?" And he looked at me and he said, "Isn't that something?" And with that, I said, "What can I say?" I went back to the dugout. That was the end of the conversation.
That's great. Hey, Phil, how much has replay changed the leeway that you're allowed? Now, they changed the rule at second base about collisions and whatnot, but the neighborhood play was allowed because you didn't want to have guys get badly injured. So that was allowed. But now replay is going to show that. So how has that changed the way you approach your job?
Yeah, I mean, really it has, because you know, when Bucky was telling the story, you know, that's the way it was even when I first started, and no one thought twice about it. Nobody, you know, never questioned. That's just the way it was. And then all of a sudden replay comes in, and rightfully teams are challenging when they miss the, you know, base by that much. So it really has changed the game. It's made it much different for us, you know. And I always say that replay is like a medication, and there's always a side effect to any medication. To me, the side effect to replay in the instance that we're talking about, you know, you have a guy who hits a double and he's in by 3 feet. There's not even any question about it. And all of a sudden you see the manager doing this, and you say, you know what, that was one of those plays where he slid, he came off the bag. I mean, the runner bounced off the bag for this, you know, this much for that long.
Yeah.
High def showed that that's what happened. And they come to the headset, and we have to overturn it. And that's happened to me when I'm in the booth, and I say to whoever the umpire is on the field, you know, I say, that's one of those bullshit calls that we have to overturn. He came off the bag for just a split second. And so it definitely has changed the game in that regard.
Yeah, when you talk about unintended consequences, that is an aspect of replay that I've always railed against, because it's not in the spirit of the rule. And yet, as long as it exists, we know now, I'll throw this one to you, Bobby Valentine, we know now that infielders are being taught, hold the tag. Even though you think the play is over, hold the tag just in case the guy doesn't even come off the bag. His foot or something comes over the bag because of the natural momentum, and maybe we can get a call here.
Yeah, and you know, holding the tag gets guys injured once in a while because you put it down there and the spikes are coming next. And we were always taught you get it in and get it out and make sure you make that tag as you're doing it. And now guys are really hesitant to really drop that tag down there. They're hesitant to put the tag down, and then they're holding it a little longer. And again, it's a different play. I really believe that the greatest play, the most athletic feat, and Bucky could attest to this because he did it so well, was that acrobatic, that ballerina at second base who would get the ball from his counterpart with this guy barreling in on him. He'd have to catch it, exchange the ball, and make a good throw to first, leave his feet, wind up on his back, and then look up over his shoulder to see if the guy was out or safe at first. I love that play. That was the most athletic play that we had in baseball, and we took it out with that, the rule because, Chase Utley went out of his way to make a lousy slide. And I really wish we put that one back in there, Joe. I'm asking you, please, let's put that one. Now, the catcher's another story because the catcher would get hit sometimes in a blindsided way, and it would be a vicious attack. And I saw guys, I remember Joe Torre coming out of the bench when Dave Parker tagged up from third base on a short fly ball to Joel Youngblood when Joe was managing the Mets back in '78. Parker came in, he lowered his head, he hit his helmet against John Stearns' face. Stearns went over, he landed on the AstroTurf. We thought he was dead. He probably had a concussion and didn't know about it. And the most remarkable thing about that, and I mentioned to Joe sometimes, there was ready to be a brawl at home plate now because of this collision. And Joe came stomping out of the dugout, picked up the bat that was laying there, and crashed it against the AstroTurf. It went flying in 50 places, and everyone stopped with the noise of him yelling and the crash of the bat, and there was no brawl. But, the second base play, I wish we could bring it back, and Bucky was really a ballerina when he turned that double play.
Well, I totally agree with you, Bobby. I thought, the teaching part of that was something that was really interesting too. As a rookie, I had a great infield instructor, and they taught us how to get out of the way. And you always knew the guys who were going to come down there and try and kill you. Don Baylor, Reggie Jackson, Kurt Gibson. I mean, you could hear Kurt Gibson coming, like, and you knew how to protect yourself and get out of the way and get up over the runner, and I see now where guys, like you're saying, they have to stand on the bag and wait for the ball, and the guy has to slide straight in, and then all of a sudden they get clipped and they turn around and they want to fight, and I said, you should have played when we had guys trying to kill us, and roadblock you and stuff like that. So I agree. I think it's one of the great parts of the game. It's the crowd comes to their feet when you make a great play, and you really had to learn how to protect yourself and get out of the way on a double play. So I love that part of the game, and I think it's gone.
Hal McRae was another one you had to be careful with, right? With him bearing down on you.
Spectacular. Yeah.
Hal McRae got me one night in Chicago. Mayberry was hitting. I was standing behind the bag, and he topped one to me, and I got the ball and I stepped on the bag, and McRae ran out of the way. I threw it, and the next thing I know, I'm picking my glove and my hat up back by the grass, and Ron Luciano is the umpire, and I jumped up and I ran over there and I was going to hit McRae, and he grabbed me, and after that I said, never again, and when he come down there, I tried to hit him right between the eyes every time, and then in '77, the World Series, he took Willie Randolph out on a slide that knocked him all the way back in the grass almost. And but McRae was one of those guys that would come get you also, but he rolled at you, and I didn't like guys rolling at me. I didn't mind guys sliding on. The guy that rolled at me, I didn't like it because hard to get up and get over him.
You know, Joe, in contrast to whatever disagreements the guys may have about the new rule at second base, you were a catcher, and now you work out of the commissioner's office and have a hand in some of these things. I think the rule about giving the runner a space at the plate has turned out to be a good rule. First of all, you don't want guys getting injured. We saw what happened to Buster Posey. He's a very valuable guy. You don't want that to happen. But Joe, I think what it's also brought back is the picturesque slide. The guy's got part of the plate, you know, and now you see hook slides. If they give him part of the plate, you see hook slides and attempts to avoid the tag rather than run the guy over that really are picturesque baseball plays.
Well, I tell you, when Posey got hurt, I was getting calls from, you know, the Bruce Bochy and, you know, the GM. And I said, I don't think there's anything we could do. I don't think there's anything we can do. Then I'm getting letters from parents of minor league players who were carried off the field. And I had said at that point, we got to find a way. I mean, we all know what happens at home plate. I mean, the catcher has nothing to lose if he's going to, you know, throw a hip there at the last minute. If he doesn't have the ball, what's the worst thing that can happen? They give him home plate. He was going to get it anyway. So it was a no-lose situation. But we had to try to devise something because it just got to the point where, you know, once I started hearing from the parents, I just, you know, researched and asked people to come up with some ideas, and it's never perfect. I mean, it's never perfect. You know, the ball takes you there, and you know, you really, any one of these guys on this call could tell you when, you know, the guy was illegal or not, you know, because you're stepping over just as the ball was getting there. It's not there yet. And of course, at second base, it makes it tough because, sure, you don't mind them knocking guys' ass over the tea kettle, but when they never even make an attempt to touch the bag, I mean, that's when Bucky said he had all the ballet moves, and Bobby also, that, you know, a lot of the players today really aren't taught or aren't equipped to handle that. I mean, even look at the you know, the knockdown pitches. You know, that was part of what went on back in the day when we played. My first week in the big leagues, every single city I went to, they threw at my head just to see how I'd handle it. But now players can't get out of the way of the ball anymore. So you really have to, you know, and the umpires, you know, it's not easy for them to make calls because they get one chance to see it. You know, it's easy to watch replay and replay, but I don't think the players are taught to avoid danger anymore. They just go out there and play.
Well, as a coach, you're talking about that. You know, as a coach, as an infield coach, it's hard anymore because of the money. You know, when
Right.
Bobby and I played, we used to go out in the grass, they put sliding pants on us, and they would take and shorten it up and roll the ball to the second baseman, and they have a guy try to come and take you out. They're trying to learn how to take you out, and you're trying to learn to get out of the way. You can't do that anymore. If I take a guy who, like Ozzie Smith, who get out of the way anyway, but if you go out there and you try and practice that and he gets clipped, who's going to get fired? You know, or I take A-Rod out there and say, okay, we're going to try and work on getting out of the way. You can't do that anymore. You can't teach it anymore because of being afraid of somebody getting hurt. Where when Bobby and I came up, it was just natural. You just went out there, and Chuck Tanner said, okay, we're going to learn how to break up double plays. You're going to learn how to get the hell out of the way. And that's the way it was. But Joe's right. You can't teach it like it's supposed to be taught anymore.
Yeah, and what happened, you know, you watch the outfielders now, every time somebody comes up, they pull this chart out of their pocket to see where they're going to play the guy.
It's unbelievable.
What happened to
unbelievable.
this? What happened to that? We don't do this anymore.
And that was only one guy that should move them. You know, they knew what was going on. They always knew where to be. But maybe that one guy, okay, move over a little. You don't know. You're pulling the card out every batter.
Yeah. First time I saw it, I was in New York, and I was watching the game, and I saw Gardner do it. And in paper next day, they were giving him credit about looking in his hat, getting where he was supposed to play. And I started laughing. I went, "Oh my God!" I mean, you got to pull a chart out of your hat to find out where you're supposed to play, guy. I mean, if I mentioned to a guy to you, Bobby, when you're playing, that came up, a guy like Killebrew, you know exactly where to go. You know who's pitching and where you're supposed to play him. You know, you just move over there,
and we'd look at the swing too off of that first fastball. And you might know where to play him on Sunday, but this might be Tuesday after a tough Monday night, and that bat's dragging a little, and you have to make the adjustment during the at bat. You know what I mean? And none of that goes on anymore. You're where the computer says you're supposed to be, and that's okay. Wow, that's not the way I like to play it.
No, me neither.
Well, that brings us to this. If we were playing on a computer, or the way I put it on the air after the World Series, if we were playing Stratomatic, that old kind of tabletop game that kids used to play, you roll the dice, all right? That Bucky Dent's card, Joe Torre's card, Bobby Valentine's card is exactly the same every time you play the game. But even if general things are true, Blake Snell isn't exactly the same guy in the 6th game of the World Series as he was overall, what the computer tells you. And neither is Nick Anderson coming out of the bullpen, because he's failed several times in a row. Blake Snell is dealing. They're human beings. They feel a different way. It's not only what the computer says. The computer is made up of macro, but the macro is thousands of micros. And not every micro, not every moment, not every game, not every inning, not every at-bat conforms to what is generally true. And that's what the baseball guy in the dugout or on the field sees with his eyes and a little bit with his heart. And that's going out of style. And maybe we sound like a bunch of old guys sitting on the porch telling the kids to get off the lawn. But I think it has a place in the game, and it's not there anymore. Go ahead, Bucky.
Well, you're right, and as a manager, and all these guys have managed, your eyes, your heart, and your gut tell you what's going to happen, when to go get a guy, when not to go get a guy. And, I just think that they're taking the human aspect out of the game as far as, managers watching. And I mean, tell me, Joe, Bob Gibson, you're going to go take him out of the 6th inning when he's got like 75 pitches and he's shutting somebody out? What do you think he's going to say to you when you walk out to the mound?
Oh, there's no question. There's no question. Plus a guy like Gibson or Koufax, I'll take 70% of them over 100% of somebody else.
Sure.
Even if they're a little tired.
Well, that was one of those things, Joe, about many of those that we had seen and you hit against and you're in the Hall of Fame with. If you didn't get them early, you didn't get them at all. So It wasn't that they threw too many pitches in that game and you were going to get them because now they're up over a pitch count. You better get them early before they got into that rhythm of throwing a lot of pitches. So that's another, the information is spectacular, Bob. Don't get us wrong, Joe and Bucky. I mean, we love the information. We love the statistics. We understand about the macro, but the one time that Bo Jackson got a hit against Nolan Ryan after striking out 15 out of 16 times was a grand slam in the 9th inning in his 17th at bat. Well, he shouldn't have been in that game, huh? Because he struck out 15 out of 16. So I should have another win on my record. But instead, I got an L because Bo hit the grand slam at the bottom of the 9th inning. It's just one of those things.
And another thing, Bobby, is, and all of us had managed. What these analytics are doing is they're neutering the manager somewhat.
Oh, totally.
And to me, that is dangerous in that clubhouse and in that dugout when the players know that you're pulling a card out of your pocket to see which one to play. And I think it just takes away from the respect factor between players and managers.
I guess the manager has to do other things that I guess.
To offset it. Yeah,
I believe too that they're not building these kids, in the minor leagues to be mentally tough in situations and pitch deep in the ball games. I mean, I've heard several times, when I had to go back to the minor leagues, they say, okay, when he gets into the sixth inning, and he's got X number of pitches and he starts to get trouble, go get him. Well, how are you going to find out if he can get out of the inning, or if he's tough enough, or if he's mental tough enough to go deeper into the game? You can't. You got to take him out, because that's what they say.
Yeah, when you bring up a young kid from the minor leagues, you're not going to really find out about him until you let him fight his way through tough situations. If you keep going to rescue him, then he's just never going to get to that point. And unless you fight your way through, I guess those people who run marathons, a certain part of that race, you're never going to make it. And you've got to be able to gut it out and find out how tough, or if somebody's got the ability to do that.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things
tough situation isn't always in the seventh inning.
That's
Sometimes that tough situation's in the second inning, and you've got to get through it. Yeah, you're exactly right.
And one of the things that happens as a result, again, we're not saying the analytics is bad. The analytics is essential. If I was in the front office or in the dugout, I'd want every bit of information I could possibly get. But it also is working against baseball as an entertainment product. Not that long ago, I'm not talking about Bob Gibson hooking up with Sandy Koufax or Juan Marichal. I'm talking about the recent past. If you looked at the probable pitchers, Pedro Martinez against Randy Johnson, you might say that's the day I'm going to the ballpark, or I'm going to make sure I watch that game. But if you know that those guys, no matter how good they are, very few, maybe Verlander, Scherzer, Cole, maybe DeGrom, but very few of them are going to be around at the end of the game, the drama of that is reduced. When you saw Tom Seaver in the eighth inning take his cap off, run his forearm across his brow, and think about what he threw Willie Stargell when he struck him out in the second, but what he hit for the double in the sixth, and now we're in the eighth. That's part of the drama of baseball, and it's almost gone now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think it's supposed to attract that new breed of character who knows the analytic, who's managing along with the manager with his analytics, so he can actually predict what's going to go on. I guess I really think that it's needed. All information's needed, but it has taken away a little of the wonderful aspect of our game.
Phil, let's get you in here. One of the things with baseball now, as much as we all love the game, it's supposed to have a leisurely pace. That's great. That's pleasing. Not supposed to have a plodding pace. What, if anything, can the umpires do to move things along?
So there are things that we can do. Beginning in 2018, we had directives to exactly help that pace of play. So first thing is we have limited the trips to the mound. We limit to 6. So for the entire game, a defensive player could only go to the pitcher 6 times. That includes manager, unless he makes a pitching change, pitching coach, third baseman who may go in 6 trips. That's it. We've also put a clock in between innings, depending upon the game, whether it's a national game or whether it's a local game. A local game would be in between innings 2 minutes and 5 seconds. A national game, such as MLB Network, ESPN, Fox, 2 minutes and 25 seconds. So when the last out is made, the clock starts running down. And when it gets to 30 seconds, the umpire will signal to both the pitcher and the on-deck hitter one more pitch. The idea is 30 seconds gives them enough time for the catcher to throw down. And ideally, we would like the pitcher to be ready to pitch when that clock hits 0. The other thing is we keep the hitter in the box. Now that has been in the rule book for forever, but we went through a period of time where in between every pitch, the hitter would step out, adjust his gloves, scratch an itch, Now we enforce that a little more strict, that in between pitches, the hitter has to stay in the box. And that's the idea, just to keep the game moving.
Yeah.
You know, if I can just go back to the analytics, it made it difficult. It makes it difficult for us as umpires as far as positioning goes, because especially as second base umpire, the middle is so crazy now that sometimes we don't know where to stand, because we're forced to be in positions where we've never been before, and that kind of, you know, we need repetition. You know, same place that, you know, Frank Pulley used to always say, tell me where the play is going to happen, I'll tell you where to stand. But we are sometimes so far out of position that it really has changed our job.
Because of the shifts, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think a lot of issues for me is where as pitchers, we're trying to strike people out from the first pitch. We don't pitch to contact anymore. We don't pitch to contact. Everybody wants to strike everybody out. And that's not good baseball. That's not good baseball to watch.
It's because everyone wants to hit a home run.
Yeah.
But, you know, the strangest thing that I saw, well, I didn't work, I was opted out but the last time we really played was the middle infield with runner on first. Now you guys manage, and Bucky, you were a middle infielder. They were nowhere near runner on first, and I'm working second, and I'm saying there is no way that they're in position for a double play ball. Sure enough, ground ball, they threw to first, and I forget who the infielder was, and you know, after the I said, did you forget there was a runner on first? No, that's where they want us, and whatever the score, I don't know what the reasoning was or what the situation had to be, and they said the analytics tell us that we're happy to give up that runner at second, let him be at second, and I thought that was just the craziest thing to me, because who doesn't think of going for a double play with a runner on first base with a ground ball?
Since I'm looking at you, Bobby, take us back to when you're tossed. You can tell us who tossed you, and you thought, well, you could still have an influence on the game if you just snuck back into the Met dugout in disguise.
Okay. Yeah. You know, that was one of those games. You know, my coaches got fired a few days before. Everyone was uptight. They had the deer in the headlights look. My head was on the chopping block. We had a lead. We gave up the lead. We go into extra innings. It's tie score. I call a pitch out. I'm right. The runner's going. Mike throws it to second. They call him out at second, but Randy Marsh at home plate is going like this. I figured he called timeout when I got to home plate. Mike is livid in his face, yelling at him, Mike Piazza. And I said, what's going on? What's going on? And Randy said, I called a catcher's balk. Now, you know, Phil could tell you that he reads the rule book every year. Joe could tell you that he rewrote the rule book. Bucky could tell you that he knows the rule book. And we could all say, we know that's in the rule book, and we never saw it called.
Never
okay?
called.
We never saw a catcher's balk called. And when I went out, and I thanked Randy for giving me the opportunity to finally see the catcher's balk called, he thought I was being sarcastic. So he threw me out of the game. And when I got out into the clubhouse, you know, my players, Robin Ventura and Oral Hershiser, came and said, hey, the new coaches that are down there, 3 of my coaches had just gotten fired. I had new coaches in dugout. They don't even know who's in the bullpen. You got to go back down and help them out. I said, oh, no, I'm not doing that. And, you know, Robin Ventura, Joe, he's a prankster, and Oral's a cool guy. And Robin threw me sunglasses. You know, he said, pull a hat down low over your ears. Take off your uniform, wear a T-shirt, but go down there and help these guys out. So I went into the clubhouse to see what the glasses looked like, and I looked in the mirror, and I looked down on the training room table, and there were the eye black that we would peel off and put underneath her eyes to take the glare out. And I took one of these stickers and I put it over here, and I put another one over here. It looked like a mustache. I looked back at Robin Ventura and he said, "Oh, they'll never know." Well, sure enough, I went down into the dugout, and within 15 seconds, the TV camera had me, and we won the game. Everyone started laughing. We get a base hit. We win the game. I go out, slap everyone 5. The rest of the umpires are kind of laughing. But the commissioner actually wasn't a commissioner. It was the president of the league at the time, Leonard Coleman. Didn't think it was so funny. So, it cost me $10,000 and suspended 3 games. And it's the thing that I'm most known for in life. Think about that.
I don't think so.
All right, Pete, better wrap it up because Phil Cuzzy has other business to take care of here. But Phil, did you ever, I've heard guys say that sometimes they come out to argue and the umpire will say, "Hey, before you even start, I know I missed it." Did that ever happen to you, Phil?
Well, if it happens where I miss a play, I'll be able to better answer that question.
You sure that's not Bruce Fleming talking?
Of course, I'm kidding. But no,
Wait, we got you on tape now. We got to go to the videotape.
Listen, I realize, that was a bad joke, but back in the day, even when I first started, you might be able to get away with that a little bit more, but now you have to be very careful about saying that because a player might use it against you. But I do remember, I forget who was stealing third, and I missed the call, and I knew I missed the call, and it was a little speedy center fielder for Cincinnati. I forget. Anyway, and the only thing I said to him to kind of let him know without actually admitting that I missed the call, I said, "I hope that you don't miss the stealing base record by 1." So that kind of let him know that I knew that I missed it, and let him know that I missed it.
Was it Billy Hamilton? Wasn't
No,
Billy
it
Hamilton?
wasn't Billy Hamilton. It was blonde-headed blonde-headed
center fielder
for Cincinnati. I'm thinking his last name began.
I'm gonna lose sleep now.
Friel?
Okay.
Ryan Friel?
That's it. That's who it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bucky.
There you go.
Bucky to the rescue.
Ryan Friel.
Yeah.
Okay. Joe, last umpire story. You ever get out there ready to blow your stack and the guy diffuses it and says, "Hey, you're right. Go on. I was wrong."
Well, I just turn around and walk away. I mean, if somebody admits it, and I had mentioned it to the umpire, Cuz will let you know that it really it just stops everything. You go out and say, "Yeah, I'm," or go take a look. I know I had Field and Culberth one time. I went out and argued, and he said, "Why don't you go take a look at it and let me know if I missed it?" Stuff like that. That's all you can do. I mean, you walk away. I mean, that we're all human, and I know you don't want an umpire to miss a call in a key spot, but you never know when a key spot is either. But I just basically turn around and go the other way, because there's really no argument. What are you going to say? Why did you miss it? I mean, they didn't do it on purpose. That's for sure.
Hey, Phil, you ever done this one, Phil? I was coaching for Joe, and it was 150 degrees on the turf, and we're playing the Phillies, and left-handed pitcher kept throwing over there all the time. And so Doug Harvey goes, "If he throws over there one more time, I'm calling a balk." Well, sure enough, he threw over there on the next pitch and he called it a balk, and he says, "It's too hot out here. That's enough of that. Go to second base." Have you ever done that?
No, I don't think I've ever done that.
Yeah, he goes, "It's too hot. That's enough of that. Go to second."
And again, it's a different day, right? I remember it was 100 degrees in Wrigley on a Sunday afternoon, and the score was, really lopsided. I was working the plate. I just got hit in the head because there was a cross up, and I got hit in the fastball, and I was dizzy, and I might have had a concussion. Who knows? And the 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th inning, Cubs losing big, and I forget who the hitter was, and keeps foul. He must have fouled off about 15 pitches, 15 pitches, and And I just kind of said as a joke, okay, let's either make the out or let's put it in play. And I got called on that. And the manager, I think the manager was Mike Quaddy at the time. And he kind of called me on it. And I said, Mike, it was just a joke. You know me a long time. I had him back in Macon, Georgia with the Pirates. But if I could just tell a quick one with Tommy Lasorda, I was in AAA going up and down. And again, it was in Wrigley Field. And I was working. I had the plate. It was a nothing game. Bruce Fremming is working first. And I brush off the plate. We're ready to go. It's probably like the 5th or 6th inning. Absolutely nothing happened. Tommy being Tommy, you all know him better than I do. As soon as we come back from commercial, the red light is on. He calls timeout and he comes out walking to me at home plate. And he said, Phil, wait a minute, Phil, time. And I'm thinking to myself, what possibly is he going to ask me? I'm a little nervous because I don't know what he's going to ask me. And I don't know if I'm going to have the answer. And he came out and he said, Phil, let me ask you a question. Are you Italian? And I was relieved because I knew the answer to that. And I said, yeah, Tommy, of course you know I'm Italian. So he points down to Bruce Fremming at first base and he said, well, did that guy take you out for a nice dinner last night? Now, people hear these stories, they think that it's just a funny story, making it up, but it's a true story. And he said, did he take you out to dinner last night? Because watch that guy, he'll screw you up. And I said, you know, Tommy, he was going to take me to the pump room in Chicago, and we never got out of the bar. He said, I told you that guy will screw you up. Stay away from him. And he got real animated. And finally, you know, when I got home, guy said, hey, what'd you make Tommy Lasorda so mad about? He was pointing. Fremming was just standing there like this at first because he knew what Tommy was doing. But that was, I always thought it was maybe Tommy's way of welcoming me to the National League because, as I said, I was an up and down guy from AAA.
Plus, he had to make sure he took care of a paisan, right?
Yeah, that only goes so far, but yeah.
Well, since it's your show, Phil, we'll let you have the last word. Phil, and send it back to you in a second. Thanks to Joe Torre. Thanks to Bucky Dent. Thanks to Bobby Valentine. And all best wishes under different circumstances this year for raising more funds for the Robert Luongo benefit.
Thank you, Bob. That was great. I hope everyone enjoyed that. We're getting a little feedback. It might be choppy and a little staticky, and you know, welcome to Zoom, I guess. And this ain't Nanina's, let's put it that way. But hopefully we'll be back there in 2022, next year. So the last story we mentioned, Bruce Fremming's name came up. And if you remember, those of you that were there and many of you on this call, and I understand that we're over 200 people who are on this call now. Bruce Fremming was our very first guest. And we thought we'd reach out to Bruce, and he was kind enough from Milwaukee to send us a video. And so we will play that for you, and then we will move forward.
Hey, to the Luongo dinner in New Jersey. I'm Bruce Fremming, retired umpire in the National League, and it's great to be with you again. It took me 17 years to say a few words again, I guess, because you got such great speakers after me that you didn't have to have me back. I thought I'd have to come back 3 or 4 times by now. But anyway, I'd like to come back because I remember all the great food there and all the great people. And for years, Lasorda and I joked about who was the bigger draw at the event. And I guess God made the choice recently when he called Tommy home to the big show in the sky. Tommy was a dear friend to all of us, and we're blessed to have known him and call him a friend. I fought with him, I loved him, and I had a lot of fun with him, and we miss him dearly. Moving forward, I'm honored that I've been chosen to set the stage for some of the speakers to follow. Guys like Torrey, Valentine, and Leland have been at this dinner. And to come to think of it, I've ejected every one of them, and including Lasorda, great memories. Speaking of memories, I remember the first night when Cuzzy showed me around the room at this great event, and I saw all the nameplates on the tables, and I thought I was at a witness protection convention. This has always been a classy event, first class all the way. And 17 years ago, Phil flew me out, and I was a little hungry when I arrived. I asked him if he could take me to get a bite to eat for lunch. And he took me to what he called the classiest hot dog stand in town, Rutt's Hut. I guess the hot dog was all right, but ruined a pair of my shoes in the parking lot with the pigeon poop all over it. And that's what he thought of me. Hey, in all seriousness, you're all doing a great work for the fight against ALS. Please continue your support of the Luongo ALS Fund, and I hope I can make a return someday in person and be at your dinner again. I wish you'd go Polish or German sausage so that we'd get some recognition. It's nothing wrong with the food that you got, but I think you ought to have a little diversity in it and move it around a little bit and give us Germans some credit. God bless for all the work you do to fight ALS, and remember to stay safe and make the safe call. Play ball.
Thank you, Bruce. I love that guy. And believe it or not, he does, every time I see or talk to him, he does talk about Rutt's Hut and the pigeons, that he ruined his shoes. The part that he left out was that he had about 5 or 6 dogs at Rutt's. But anyway, we have Blaze Maris. So that's Roger Maris's grandson, Randy Maris's son, works for the company who I'm sure a lot of you have heard of, Dugout Mugs. And when he heard that his father, Randy, who will be joining us soon, was going to join us, he did not want to be left out. So he offered to make a special commemorative mug. And we thought we'd put it together with the pictures of the Yogi Berra, Roger Maris, Mickey Mantle. We put that onto the mug. We're going to show you a picture of it. And we put the pictures up, and we're going to show you, it is a commemorative piece. There's only 100 pieces. Once it's 100 gone, then they're gone. They are, and you see the website that's there on the bottom of the page. It's going to go through Dugout Mugs webpage, but they have offered to give us everything that we make for the 100 mugs for that. And so it's going to be great. It's a nice piece to have. It says Robert Luongo ALS Fund on the top, and on the bottom, together, let's strike out ALS. So that's a nice piece that we have. All proceeds will go to the Robert Luongo Fund. So I thank Blaze for that, and I thank Dugout Mugs for that as well. So that'll be on our website about how to get to it, but it will be the Dugout Mug website. We're going to switch back to our painter, Craig Mahoney, and let's see what kind of progress he's making. He's making some nice progress with that. And as you see, that's the same mug. That's the same picture painting that is on the Dugout Mug. So that'll be a nice piece to have. We're going to auction that off later in the evening. And I have to say, we have over 200 people on the call now. Donations keep coming in. And I have to say that the auction items have been really going crazy. The hot item right now, little bidding war going on. In the last hour, it's been up $500. The Tom Seaver picture is signed autographed picture is up to $1,000. The Alex Rodriguez helmet is also a hot item, as is the Yogi Berra baseball that's on a Mickey Mantle commemorative piece, which is was donated by Tommy Starr. You know, and as far as the memorabilia goes, every piece, not every single piece, but most pieces are donated by our friends in our community. On the auction page, you see the name of the people who donated that. And I have to have one quick shout out to a very good friend of ours,
Host unmuted you.
who over the years, Nick Borelli, he donated, the items that he donated over the years has brought in over $25,000 in merchandise. So I thank Nick, and I thank all of you who have bid and purchased this memorabilia as well. The moment that we've been waiting for, we are going to bring in the three sons. We may have technical difficulty with David Maris, but I know that, I'm sorry, David Mantle. We don't know if he's able to log on, but we will be bringing on, and for your questions, Randy Maris and Larry Berra. There's Larry. Hi, Larry.
Hey, Bill, how you doing? Glad to be here.
Randy, how are you?
Good, great. Hey,
Hear them though. So we're hoping that David can figure out what exactly is going on. We don't have David, but let's get started. I have just a couple questions to get started. So, you know, we are across the country, but we are here in Yankee country. We're in Yankee land right here. So your fathers were icons, and especially to the people in this neighborhood, in this area, huge Yankee fans. So I want to ask the both of you, what was it like? When was it the first time that you realized that your father just wasn't the guy next door? Randy, let's start with you.
Well, that's hard to say. I think the first time is when we went to St. Louis after Dad got traded. We never went to New York, so we were involved with all of that. But when we went to St. Louis during the summer, we'd spend the summer there. And when we went and got in the car with Tim McCarver and Steve Carlton to ride to the ballpark, I'm like going, okay, this is kind of crazy. And then when you get to the ballpark and see the going down in the locker room and being with the guys down there, I'm going, yeah, this isn't normal for every young kid, for sure.
Larry?
Probably not till I was older. The Yankees to me were like my family. I called all of them my uncle. Phil Rizzuto was my godfather, and we used to be together so often that my favorite players weren't even Yankees. I rooted for other teams.
What did your father think about that?
He just went with the flow. I mean, he basically let us play any sport we wanted. But I guess I realized when I started playing baseball myself, when I got into the upper grades, you know, people, because Dad would come to the games, he would come to watch us play basketball, and he was just like a regular guy. So I don't think I really thought of him just as dad. But then we started going there. I saw him play in the ballpark. I saw him hit home runs when I was younger, in the old 407 mark in right center field, which is now about 70 feet shorter. So, but his becoming more famous came when I started being able to go out to dinner, you know, when I got older and I could go to these big dinners and people would just be around them. And I could tell you a real funny story was my mother. This is years and years ago. My father played in the AT&T Golf Classic that Bing Crosby used to have. And she called me like 11 o'clock at night and said, I don't understand it. And not even she could figure it out. She said, I don't understand it. I said, what are you talking about? She says, I'm in a tent with every major superstar, movie star, 3 presidents, and your father walked into this place and the whole place just went quiet. They all wanted to meet your father. And I said, why are you asking me? You've been married to him for 50 years. I said, I don't know. It's just that she was just stunned. And so, you know, because he was just such a regular guy, it was really hard to think of him as the superstar guy that everybody thinks he is. And that's just not just because I'm his son, but that's just the way he was.
Yeah, Phil, I don't think a lot of people realize, you know, what we go through. Our father is just dad. He wouldn't, you know, always was, you know, great dad. And
you know, you always kind of laugh at it, how people revered my father, and it was just, it was crazy.
Okay, so I guess I could understand how you guys would say, "Hey, that's just my father." I mean, he was a baseball player. I recognize that, and it gave. We never had to wait for a reservation for a dinner table. Okay, but what about your friends? When was it that your friends first realized? And there's always one kid at school, and always one kid in the neighborhood that, let's say that your dad might have had a rough game, the night before. Any of the kids the next day give you a hard time at school, or they, what was it like for your friends feeling about that?
You want me
Larry,
to
let's
go
start
or
with you.
Well, in the beginning, it was didn't really have enough time. We didn't move to Montclair till 1959, but before that, we'd already lived in 3 towns. So before I could get, it was little tough to get, even get to know friends. I'd make friends and then we'd move and I'd have to make new friends. But when we got to Montclair, there were a lot of fans, a lot of Giant fans, a lot of New York Giant people. And then, they were all pretty good. I mean, the only thing that would bother you a little bit is more of the parents. A lot of the parents with the kids would say, well, he's not as good as his father. And people would say, you'd have the pros and the cons. You'd have the people, the guy's 9 years old, 10 years old. How are you going to know? That kind of thing. You wouldn't realize. But once we settled into one town, like in Montclair, it became nice and easy. I had a load of friends, and we got along really good with the community. The whole community was great. We didn't like Belleville too much, though, because we used to like to.
Because we used to beat you all the time. That's probably
No,
why.
you didn't.
There's no guess about that. For those people who are not local, Montclair and Belleville are kind of neighboring towns. We played each other against in high school. I actually did play against Dale when he was at Montclair High. So they are rival towns, and it was a lot of fun. So, Randy, what about you? What about the kids at school? How'd they treat you? Did they treat you any differently? If your father had a rough game, did they get on you about it?
No, not really. When we moved to Gainesville after he retired. I was so young when he was playing that I really didn't remember a lot of that era in school at all. But when we moved to Gainesville, people definitely had their interest piqued and would talk to you. But you get both sides, like Larry said. When you're playing sports and the other team, you strike out. Oh, that's Roger Maris's kid. He's not like his dad, just like Larry would. So, I mean, there's good and bad that comes with both of it. But I had a lot of good friends, and you just take the good with the bad.
So did either of you feel pressure to play and to follow in your father's footsteps? I mean, those are some big shoes to fill.
I never felt pressure. Dad really probably never wanted us to go into sports, actually, because he went through a rough time with the press, and just he would, if he could have made more money doing anything else, he probably would have. Just, he loved the fans. New York was a rough time with the press there. You're in the eye 24/7 up there, and he didn't like that. He was a small town guy from Fargo, real shy guy, and he didn't like that. But fortunately, when he went to St. Louis, they really loved having him there, and the fans were unbelievable there. So we had a great time in St. Louis.
Yeah. Randy, I see that you have the mug that we just were talking about that's behind you, and I was just handed a note to say that people are buying them up on the website already. So that's great.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's
very nice. Very nice. So, and again, we thank people. Donations keep coming in, so we appreciate that. Larry, are you going to break a little news tonight? I understand that you have some news that your father is having a postage stamp.
The
Postal Service is making a car stamp.
Yeah, the Postal Service has announced that they're going to issue a single stamp in honor of my father. And being a stamp collector myself, I was amazed. I was, even when I was a younger kid, my old baseball coach at Montclair Academy taught me taught me about stamp collecting, and I always eventually starting on, gee, I wonder if my father would ever get on a stamp. But then he told me, well, you have to be dead to get on a stamp. And I said, well, I don't know.
That's the bad news.
That was the bad news. So but I was able to, he lived long enough and I lived long enough that I've actually got to see it. And it's a great honor.
Well, it looks as though you have a great piece to go into your collection. And
Yep.
Randy, I see behind you that we already had a Roger Maris stamp.
Yeah, the post office came out with a stamp of my father's. I can't even remember the year now, but they had us go to a couple of ballparks and introduce it to the fans. We went out to San Diego with a good friend of yours and mine, Andy Strasberg, and had my son throw out the first pitch, and he was dressed in my dad's uniform from Andy's collection. So that was a great time. And my brothers and I went to Yankee Stadium for the inauguration of the stamp. So it was fun, and like Larry said, it's a great honor for your father to be on the post stamp. It's mind blowing.
We're talking to the.
And I know that David is not here, but I know that there was a Mickey Mantle stamp as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep, all three of them now.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned Andy Strasberg, and we're gonna bring him on just a little while, but we're gonna get to the questions first. So first, we're gonna bring up Lenny Luongo. Can we find Lenny? And we're gonna let Lenny ask. Lenny is Robert's brother. He was an all-state football player for our town as well as Robert was. There's Lenny. Also played at Virginia Tech. Lenny, how are you? He's muted. Okay, can we hear you?
Can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Go ahead, Len. Ask your
Okay,
question.
thanks, Phil.
Could you turn it
My
off?
question to the sons are, as you were growing up, who was aside from your father, who was your favorite baseball player?
All right. I can answer that first. My first favorite player was Ted Williams. I met Ted Williams through with my dad at a dinner in like 1955 or 56, and I can't remember. It was a long time, but he was so nice and everything. I said no, and I was just at the age. I was 7, so I'm just getting into the game now, and I really enjoyed Ted. I loved watching him. And then after he retired, my big guy and I really became good friends with him too. And I told him, I said, "You're my idol," and he couldn't believe it. It was Harmon Killebrew. And I played golf with him. I got to spend a lot of time with him, and he even gave me his phone number so I could call him anytime I want. And he was tremendous. And I was just like my father. I didn't really get to meet Harmon Killebrew until I was in my mid-30s, and my father surprised me with taking me to Idaho to play in a golf tournament. And he says on the way out, he goes, "Oh, I forgot to tell you who you're playing with." And he goes, "Harmon Killebrew." I said, "Dad, I can't do that. There's no way. I'm getting too nervous." And he says, "What are you talking about, nervous?" I said, "No, you don't understand. This is my idol. I love this guy." And I ended up playing a practice. I don't want to take too much time. I ended up playing a practice round with the Murderers Row of the Washingtons. Harmon introduced me. He came out, said, "How you doing?" and introduced me. Then I played with Jim Lemon, Roy Sievers, and Bob Allison, and Harmon Killebrew, all in the same. We played with 5 guys, and the thing was amazing. I was like shocked for about 2 years.
Great foursome.
Yeah.
Randy?
Yeah. Well, my favorite player was with St. Louis, Lou Brock. Watching him play, he was just a phenomenal guy to watch. Real good time in the locker room. Always treated us great. But I always loved watching him base steal. I was watching the '68 World Series on MLB the other night, and to watch how that guy could get a jump, it's amazing. You know, when the pitchers tried to throw back him, he just pretty much just stroll over to the back to the bag and turn around and sort of laugh at him and then steal on the next pitch. But he was fun to watch, and great ball player, and a really good man too.
Okay, thank you, Len.
Thank you, Phil.
If we seem distracted, it's because David is on the call and we just can't seem to find him to bring him on.
There he is.
There he is.
There I am.
Hello,
Hey,
David.
there you are.
Sorry about that.
Hey, David.
Now
Hey,
tell me
man,
that he doesn't
I've been
look
sitting
just
here
like
watching
his
you
dad.
all. I've been trying everything to get on here. I'm going, man, what's going on?
Grab
Well,
a kid, Dave.
We're glad that we found you. And so since you're here, why don't we let me just go back and you probably heard when was the first time that you realized that your dad was not just the guy next door?
Well, you know, it's like Randy said, you know, we just called him Dad, but the first time I noticed, I was 18 years old, and it was at the Bobby, I think, was probably the manager at the time. It was at the Texas Ranger Stadium, and it was a Ranger game, but they had a old timers game there. And Joe D was there, Dad was there, Casey was there. You know, and then little Billy Martin, there was a picture of him and Casey on the dugout, you know, kneeling next to each other with Billy Martin Jr. But at that game, I was there with my date, and when they introduced Dad, you know, everybody stood up and started clapping, and it went on for seemed like forever. But that's when the first time I noticed that, you know, he was more than just my dad, that, you know, I knew what he meant to his fans then.
Nice. Well, you know, you mentioned date, so I'm guessing that maybe the three of you, because of your dad, didn't really have that much difficulty in finding a date. Am I wrong?
No.
I'm guessing you went to all the proms, so you didn't have any problem getting a prom date.
Bill, we'd like to think it wasn't because of our fathers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, you keep telling yourself that. And let's go to the next question. Brian Kurtz has a question for all three. Hi, Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, how are you? I'll tell you, my connection to Phil is that I'm an umpire. That's how I met Phil. And I'm not a Yankee fan. Sacrilegious, so he's going to cut me off now. But I am a Met fan, and so I have great memories of your father, Larry, when he managed the Mets in '73.
Right.
That was an amazing, amazing year. And Randy, I remember going to a Met game against the Cardinals, sitting in right field, first row, and your dad was playing right field, and my father was explaining to me who Roger Maris was. And he came by, on one of the innings, he came by to say hi. I was yelling at him. You know, I was a little kid, but it was a real thrill. So
awesome.
Great memories of both of them. Anyway, when you watch kids on the field, like, you know, the players' family days and all of that, and you see the kids running around on the field, it sounds like, Randy, you didn't get to New York for that kind of stuff.
I got to do that in St. Louis.
In St. Louis. So it's same question then. So the question for each of you, and you too, David, is like when you were on the field, like, you know, playing around or before the game, is there like a one memory that you had on the field? I mean, you must have been either awestruck or you just didn't know what was going on, and so it didn't matter. But then, is there something that stayed with you for the rest of your life? I mean, it was a moment or something that just was like an epiphany or something that led to your success because you saw what your dad was up to, what the success that he was having, and how that affect your life and your success?
I don't know if it affected my life or whatever, but one of the things about the field was when we were younger, my brother Tim and I, we used to go to the ballpark with my dad all the time. And it's different now. We were allowed to run around on the field when they took batting practice and everything. So just one day, you tell people the story that, you're out there shagging fly balls, and we didn't want to go in once. So I asked my father, I said, Dad, hit Tim and I some fly balls. And my father goes, nah, I'm a little tired. Have Mickey hit them to you. So my recollection is I have my brother and I out in the outfield, center field over here, and Mickey Mantle is hitting us fly balls. To catch fly balls from Mickey Mantle at 10 and 9 years old, 11 and 9 years old is like mind-boggling. And then to be able to, and then as I got older, 15, 16, to be, to work out with them as, and see them at different functions and everything, it just go. But right back then, just to be in the same place with them was in awe. I used to love to go to spring training because you would sit, and I would sit at a table, and there'd be Elston Howard, Roger Maris, Mickey Mantle, Dad, Hank Bauer, Bill Scowen. There'd be a whole slew of them there. And you could sit there, not open your mouth for 4 hours.
Exactly.
And all they did was talk about the times they had together. And not one of them hated each other. They were incredible. It's just mind-boggling, the camaraderie and the way they played the game together. But you could hear the stories and you would go, wow, that's cool. That's great. And then one of my favorite stories is, I asked my father once, he said, what do you think of all this analytics and stuff? I said, could you use a computer? You know what he said to me? He says, you watch a game long enough. He goes, you know where the computer is? Right here.
Yeah.
I don't need the computer. I could tell you every guy on that field, every guy in the league. I tell you where to pitch him, where to play him, and everything else. I don't need those computers.
Yeah.
Nice. John Rada from Nutley asks, did any of your fathers ever speak to you about another career they would have pursued had they not been playing professional baseball?
Well,
Randy, let's start with you.
Well, Dad in the off season actually worked with the Slitch distributor in Kansas City where we live, and he always wanted to get in the beer business. And then after he retired, he did. So that was one of the things he had always talked about doing, and he fulfilled his dream after that.
David?
Yeah, it's back then, it's just like Randy was mentioning. Back then, I know Dad, they didn't make the salaries that they do now. And, they all had jobs in the off season. And Dad would go back to Pitcher, Oklahoma, and Commerce, Oklahoma there. And, he'd work in the lead and zinc mines. So the only thing I can think of is that he'd probably go back just to the mines. But I'm glad he had a successful baseball career, because that way he was with his teammates for all those years. And, he didn't have to go back and work in the lead and zinc mine.
Good thing he was able to hit a fastball.
Yeah, but I think that's what gave him his muscles, was breaking those rocks.
Absolutely.
Larry, what about Yogi?
He all he ever said was, he goes, typical. He never had a particular field. He just said, if I didn't play baseball, I'd have to work. That was it. But he did tell me once that when my mother was pregnant with me in 1949, in 1950, in 49, I was born in December. He says, you're the reason I had to work as a Sears hardware salesman in 1950. He sold different kinds of screws and stuff in Sears.
Our next question comes from Jake Ostrom.
Thank you, Mr. Cuzzy.
Hi, Jake.
Hi, Phil.
Where are you calling from, Jake?
I'm calling from Simsbury, Connecticut, so all the way out in the East Coast. Larry, my question is for you. Out of all of your dad's yogiisms, which one is your favorite?
Oh boy, I always like to. Well, number one one is, it ain't over till it's over, because it fits into a lot of life too. But I also liked, when you come to a fork in the road, take it, because it's actually a road in Montclair and it exists. And it was just a real figure of speech, and it was a road that if you take it, it takes you up to the top of the same road. You make a left and you go to the house. So I like those two, but it ain't over till it's over is my classic.
Which has become very iconic. Even, you know, it's almost as iconic as take the gun, leave the cannolis, or vice versa. Yeah. Next question from Tony Calabrese. And this question is for Randy.
Hey, Tony.
Hey, Tony, you're on. Hi, Carolina.
Hi.
Okay,
Carol.
Randy, I know that the Maris family was very supportive of Mark McGwire when he broke your dad's single season home run record. In light of you guys learning that McGwire, Sosa, and Bonds either all did or allegedly used steroids, what was the family's reaction to that? And in your minds and hearts, do you guys feel your dad still is the single season home run record holder?
I'll answer the last one first. Yes. You know, even Mark, when he did an interview with Bob Costas, said, you know, he said Costas had asked him a question and said, you know, the Maris family still thinks their father's record should be the record, and he goes, they have every right to feel that way. So that's my answer to that. Yes. Yeah. Look, Mark is a wonderful guy. He donated $6,100 to my dad's charity for like 15 years after he retired. And, you know, I think what happens is these guys get caught up. Obviously, the money's so good, even when Mark was playing, as it is now, that these guys can't find another way to make a living. And, you know, they get tempted and want to stay in the game. And obviously, you know, Mark had a lot of back issues and stuff like that. So he went with the steroid route. I'm glad to see Major League Baseball put in drug testing. I think it needed to be done before what they did. But, you know, I think everybody was just so caught up with, you know, the year after the strike, baseball really needed a shot in the arm. And then all of a sudden the home runs started coming and everybody got caught up in it. And so I don't know if they just looked the other way and wanted it to happen. But, you know, from that aspect, we were glad baseball came back. It's sad that his record went down, but, you know, like Dad always said, records were made to be broken.
Thank you. And I have a question for David. David, yes, you and I are the same age. And I remember your father from when I was 8 years old. He became my favorite ball player in 1963. So two-part question. Number one, what are your favorite memory from your father's baseball career? And what did your father himself feel were some of his favorite memories of his career?
Well, I think one of them for my father was probably when he hit his 500th home run, because he had been struggling with that for a while. And when he finally got it on, happened to be on Mother's Day, and my mom happened to be at the game. So they were, he had told Mom that he was going to hit a home run that day, and luckily he did. So that was probably the one for my dad. And then for mine, it was just, I think, of course, I was only a year old, but the year he won the Triple Crown, that was probably the big year for me, you know, after I was being born. Even though I was just 1 year old, I still feel that the Triple Crown was that was his best year.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. TC.
Thanks.
Next question will come from, we have a federal judge, Thomas Durkin, calling from Chicago. Your Honor? It's our honor.
Yeah, well, it's my honor. Thanks, Phil. I have a question for David. David, your father hurt his knee when his cleat caught on a drain or sprinkler in the outfield at Yankee Stadium in the second game of the 1951 World Series. He was in right field. Joe DiMaggio was in center, and Willie Mays hit the ball to right center. And there's been some controversy as to whose ball was it. That's the play your dad hurt his knee. Did he ever talk about that? And did he ever tell you whose ball it was?
Well, all I remember is that day Casey told him that, you know, Joe D was getting ready to retire, and he had a bad foot. I'm not sure which foot it was, but the heel and stuff, he was having trouble running. And so Dad just mentioned to my dad that, I mean, Casey mentioned to my dad that, you know, anything hit close to you, you know, try to get. And, you know, because Joe D was having trouble running. And so when that ball was hit there, you know, Joe D called him off of it. And it just, when Dad went to stop, it just so happened to hit that drainage thing. And it just, you know, and it just ripped out his knee.
Well, thank you.
So it could have been either one of them's ball, but when Joe D called it off, Dad stopped.
And that's when the trouble started.
Yep.
For his knee. Yeah. Thank you, Judge. Our next question comes from Michael Leota. We have Michael. There he is.
Hey, Michael.
How are you, Mike?
Hey, Mike.
This question is also for David. Okay, I'll ask Michael's question, and this is to David. What is the most memorable memory of the great Mickey Mantle, and what would you say? This is from someone very passionate. What would you say would be the best advice you can give to a 12-year-old?
There he is.
Michael, you back? Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Well, I think, hello, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Real good, thank you. I think for Dad, it's probably going into the Hall of Fame with one of his teammates, and that was Whitey. That would have been, I think, one of Dad's biggest thrills, because I think Whitey had missed it the first year, and I think they made Whitey wait to go in with Dad, because Dad had been retired for 5 years the next year, and to me, they just wanted them to go in together, and so that's why Whitey didn't go in the first year. But that would have been, I think, Dad's biggest thrill, was going into the Hall of Fame with one of his teammates.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Now, the best part about my job traveling around the country, I get to meet all kinds of people. So we just met the judge. And next, it's Monsignor Dan Mayall has a question for all three sons. Hello, Monsignor.
Hello, Phil. Hello, fellows. Listen,
Hello.
guys in the religion business like me, who are also baseball fans, call great ballparks cathedrals. And your fathers all played in one of the primary cathedrals, Yankee Stadium, the old Yankee Stadium. What do you think your dads would feel like having to do what the fellows did last year, and are likely going to have to do again, at least at the beginning of this coming year, play in front of an empty church?
Wow.
That's a hard one. I don't know.
I don't know. Well, I know my father used to say, I used to ask my father what it was like playing in front of big crowds. And his answer was that after the first pitch, he didn't even know they were there. He was so into the game, he just said that it was just another game. You know, I mean, it's hard for me to understand that, though. I never had the chance to play in the major leagues and you know, in front of 50, 60,000 people. So I really don't know. But he just said after the first pitch, he was just another game.
Yeah, I think that's how Dad would feel too, because you know, obviously my dad got heckled a lot more than your guys did. But yeah, I think he'd feel the same. You know, once you hit the field after that first pitch, all the jitters and everything are out of the way, and you just play the game. It doesn't matter how many people are there or not.
Yeah, I feel the same way also. It's just another game, and just, you know, playing for the fans.
Well, you know the stories. You know the stories too. That Mickey and Whitey and Dad used to fool around during the middle of the games too. Remember, they used to.
Oh, yeah.
Mickey would call the game, call pitches for my father to take,
center field,
and then to field from center field, and they would fool around and they would play the games. And so they were having fun in front of all these people, also.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Monsignor.
Take care.
Who do you root for, the Cubs?
Next question is for Larry from South Cocoa.
So in the beginning of the book, your grandfather Pietro really didn't want your father or his brothers to play baseball.
Let's go.
And supposedly there was a meeting at the house of the family.
I don't know when to jump in, when to stop, when to move on.
Trying to teach the kid out of playing baseball. And your uncles kind of stepped up and did something which I thought was absolutely amazing. Did Dad ever tell you that story?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That was a key. My uncles used to tell me the story also. My father always told me that if it wasn't for his brothers, that who he thought were better ball players than him, he would have never got the chance. My uncle Tony was they called him Lefty, the oldest boy. Supposedly he played a lot of semi-pro ball in St. Louis and played against guys like Satchel Paige and everybody else, and supposedly hit 400 2 years when he was playing and could have gone right away. But the dad didn't know anything about baseball, wouldn't let him go. My Uncle Mike, so they just said, hey, we're all working. We can help support the family. Let Lottie go. They called him Lottie then. Let him go. And that's what happened. And that's how he got his chance.
Great story. Great family. Thank you.
True. Great uncles too. Great uncles, great aunt too.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll ask Carmen's question, and this is for Randy. Randy, your dad's 61st home run, bat and ball are part of the Hall of Fame collection. Is there any movement by the ARIS Committee, formerly known as the Veterans Committee, to induct him into the Baseball Hall of Fame?
There are a couple small movements out there. Dad had always said that he wasn't going to politic to get in there. If he belonged in there, he'd get in there. It's a shame. We feel like he should be in there. Both him and Dale Murphy are the only two that have won back-to-back MVPs that aren't in the Hall of Fame. But it'll be what it'll be. I know the year after Mark McGuire broke the record, there was a big groundswell to put Dad in, and they took him off the ballot. So, the forces that be just haven't wanted him in there yet. Hopefully 1 year, we're hoping still.
All right.
So am I.
Carmen, thank you. Carmen's there. Gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining us. I know that we had a little trouble with the sound, but I know that it was enjoyable for everybody. And Randy, I also want to thank you for Blaze with the bats. We understand that they're selling. Remember that the auction is still going on. However, it will close at 10 o'clock. Remember to refresh your browser so that you get the current bid. And gentlemen, you're welcome to stay on, but we're gonna bring Steve Sharippa on next, and we have some questions for him. So I think Steve is on, and
see you, Dave.
If he gets here, then we will start asking Steve some questions. Let's go back. Okay, until we get Steve up, let's go back to our to Greg, our artist, and let's see how he's doing with the painting.
I'm muted. Oh, now I'm unmuted. You can see we're getting there. I'm trying to get a little, get some of that 1960, 1961 sort of retro feel. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Craig. Go ahead.
Yeah, give a little bit of the sort of that 60s retro atomic age sort of design background. And I don't know if I'm going to get it 100% done tonight, but hopefully you can see it's starting to look like something here. But it was a thrill listening to all three gentlemen. It's a little intimidating painting their fathers in front of them with them here. I'm used to painting in front of crowds, but not anybody who knew the guys personally. So, but yeah, this is going to be nice. We're going to have some prints available, and I'm going to send a print to each of the sons as well, so they can each have a copy of one of these. And I want to say to Donald, I know you were talking about
whatever you did,
knowing how famous your fathers are, but is he here? Mickey, come here. I want to introduce you to your father's namesake. This is Mickey Mantle Mahoney. Named my dog after your dad. So I'm sure you've met lots of people over time. But this guy here, he's actually been to Yankee Stadium a few times, and he's wandered your father's old stomping grounds in center field there in that park they have now. So it's an honor to be on this with all three of you, and especially to introduce Mickey to his namesake son. So thank you, Phil, for putting this together.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg. We'll be back to you, and we're going to auction that off in just a little bit. And what is the size of that?
14.
I think he said it was 12 by 17.
11
okay,
by
14. Steve. Steve, are you with us? Can we go back to Craig and take a look at his painting? Or would that complicate you even more, Tim?
No, we're good.
Okay, Craig, can you hear us?
I can hear you. So I don't know why I painted probably Mickey Mantle here. The only two between him, Derek Jeter, and Batman. I don't think there's anyone I've drawn or painted more in my life. And for some reason, I'm having a hard time with his likeness right now. Looks almost more like like Garrick than Mantle. I don't know why, but we'll get there. We're getting.
It's kind of like our technical difficulties. So I'm glad that we're not the only ones that are having a little trouble. Greg, I know you're a big Yankee fan.
Phone in my face.
Do you enjoy painting Yankees more than anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I painted, last year I was outside on River Avenue, outside the Yankee, not last year, I should say 2019. I was outside the Yankee Twin Eatery on River Ave, and I was doing live paintings before every game. I would paint a different Yankee. And by the end of the year, I was sick of painting Yankees. But now I miss it. I'm looking forward to hopefully this year I can get back out there and do it. But yeah, I love it. It's, when you're a huge fan of something and to be out there before the games and to be sort of a part of the experience and then to be able to do things like this, I mean, it's just great. As like I said, as somebody who named his dog after Mickey Mantle to be part of this event, it's just fantastic.
Okay. Why don't we bring, until we could figure out what's going on with Steve, how about if we bring in Andy Strasburg? And those of you, there he is, those of you that may not know Andy by name, I'm always asked, Andy, I forget his name, but how is the Jewish fellow who told the Roger Maris story? So welcome. And I think, do we still have Randy, David, and Larry on? Randy, maybe you could, Andy, maybe you could tell us what you told me. Okay, there's Randy. That your dad's idol for sure, growing up. You have a question for Randy? Andy?
Yeah, I do. First of all, can you hear me?
Yes.
Randy? Yes? Everybody can hear me? Okay.
David?
Believe it or not,
I'm back.
And it's a little bit hard to hear you guys. That's only because I'm in San Diego and the air conditioner is on full blast here in San Diego.
Well, we have the same problem because we have the heater blowing.
And I do have a question for Randy. By the way, I met Randy over 30 years ago at a Tasty Freeze in Georgia. But my question for Randy has to do with the fact, in fact, David and Larry also, I'm just curious, you guys, you're sitting at home and you're watching a ball game. So there's nobody else around. It's just you and your dad and you're watching a baseball game. What was going on? Was your dad second guessing? Was he making opinions? Or was he just keeping quiet and enjoying it? I'd love to know each one what transpired.
They got it.
Randy, you need to unmute. There you go.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't get through. The host had to unmute me, but you know, watching baseball with Dad was, I never got to watch it with him just by himself because there were 6 of us kids. So he would always basically use the opportunity to teach. You know, if a guy's leaning the wrong way or a guy's fielding the wrong way, he'd always use that as an opportunity to teach all of us, you know, the proper way to do it.
Just bring him in.
As Dad was a great outfielder, so that was his expertise.
There's Steve.
Uncle Bobby.
Okay. Steve, can you?
Do you hear me?
We hear you. We hear you. All right. How about if we move on to some questions for Steve, and we will move forward. But I do appreciate Andy, your fillers, and the 3 sons. We appreciate you helping us out. So, Steve, the question from Gino Fazzari. I enjoy your podcast tremendously, and I know you don't have the problems that we are having with that. So many people that you've had on show so much respect for James Gandolfini. Can you share your most memorable or funny experience with James?
You know, the guy was just a really good guy, Phil, you know, regular guy, a good guy. As good an actor as he was a better guy. A lot of fun, a lot of laughs. Loved to have a good time, drink. Had a lot of fun. Generous. I've told the story. He gave each cast member $33,333 each. He cared. He really cared about the cast and the crew. You know, he wasn't a bullshit guy. Wasn't a Hollywood guy, you know. Regular.
Of the 3s.
I'm hearing other people talking. What's happening? Phil, you got.
I'm asking you. You said he gave $33,333. What was the significance of the 3s?
I have no idea. Father Dave, I'm sorry, I'm cursing. Forgive me.
Father Dan. Okay. All right. Steve, you've been to a bunch of our events, and we have next Steve Zerpeli and his wife Paulette. They are not. We can't pull them up. Okay, so Steve asked the question: can you tell us how you came to be associated with the Robert Luongo Fund, and why is it that you continue? And if I could just add, I know that you can do an event every single night if you wanted to, but you always come back and you help us.
You know, Phil, you know, I met Phil how you doing? Good to see you. Hello, how are you? I met Phil at a Yankee game. He gave my young daughters a couple of baseballs, and he told me about his event, and I went, and I love what he does and how he helps people. He even helped a friend of mine. A friend of mine was a Port Authority cop, came down with ALS very quickly. And he needed help paying some bills, and Phil was there, wrote a check, the foundation, and, you know, I see it. I like seeing stuff firsthand. I've done a ton of charity work, and I still do, but you don't see it. With this charity, what Phil does, and the Robert Luongo charity, you see it. He writes a check, he builds a ramp, he buys a van. You see where the money's going. And, you know, nobody's getting paid. Everybody's volunteering. So, you know, you see the good work that he's doing, and that's what I like, you know.
And with Steve is his wife Paulette. Those of you that were at Nanina's a couple years ago, she gave a tremendous speech that there was not a dry eye in the house. She spoke through her computer. She is the ALS patient that we've always helped, and we love her. Paulette, we're happy to see you. And I know that you had a question for Steve as well.
How you doing, Paulette?
Hi, Steve. Can you guys hear us as well?
Yes.
Again, good. So she prepared us, again, something on her computer, and we are like big fan, not only just big fans from The Sopranos, because we're in the Caldwells, so we live up in the Caldwells. And I know a lot of shooting was done up here at one point, so, but anyway, we're big fans of, the Blue Bloods. So here's Paulette. She's got something she prepared. So she's going to speak from her computer. All right, Paulette, you good?
First, I have to say thank you to everyone that has contributed to this very special fundraiser. It has truly helped us over these past couple of very difficult years. And thank you, Phil, for being my friend. Now, Steve, my question. My husband and I are hooked on Blue Blood reruns. You're amazing. Question is, after seeing season 8, episode 12, where you got shot, you might remember when Danny Regan came into your hospital room and you had some really strong words with him. I thought you were going to hit him. So what is your real relationship with Donnie Wahlberg? Is he a bit of a hard ass?
Oh, in real life, no, he's a sweet, sweet, sweet guy. He's a really good guy, very talented guy. A lot of people forget he was on New Kids on the Block. I mean, he sings, he dances, he acts. No. We get along just fine, but they had that storyline going for a while. I think we're getting along a little better.
Yeah.
We started out very rough for a while, but no, we've been getting along a little better. Not the best of friends, but a little bit better. No, he's a good guy. Crew loves him. Very generous guy. Gives a crap about people. A Boston guy, regular guy. Big sports guy, Celtics, Red Sox. No, he's a good guy.
Nice.
Well, thank you.
Steve and Paulette, I remember that you told me that your biggest expense is to bring in health care to help you out around so that you can go to work. So we will be sending you a check for $10,000, and we love to help you. Okay.
Beautiful.
Paulette, thank you very much.
This was kisses from her to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate everybody and everyone that came onto the Zoom call and who are doing what they can. We couldn't do this, what we're doing, and support, to do what we're doing without everyone's, heart to give. And, God bless everyone. Appreciate that so very much. We really do.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
See you, Paulette.
See you, Paulette. See you. Thanks.
Next question, Steve, comes from Ryan Gore. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, guys. How are you?
How are you?
Good. So, Steve.
I didn't know you had a girlfriend.
Yeah. Oh, Phil, this is Jess.
All right.
So, Steve, she's from Florida, so she's not really clued in with the Jersey thing yet. So we're still trying to bring her up to speed. So, I'm watching The Sopranos for like the 100th time, and this is her first. So we're on season 6. So, but what was it like when you guys kind of found out that someone was going to get killed on the show or get whacked? And, did you guys find out ahead of time? Did you find out during shooting? And especially it's been so, for a lot of those people, it was so long. How did it all go down?
People found out different ways. He would call you. David Chase would call you on the phone. And he would say, "Listen, you got to go. It's time for you to go." And then sometimes when you were at work, he would say, "Could I talk to you for a minute?" He'd take you off to the side, and he would let you know there. With me, he came to my apartment. He called me. He said, "I'm in the neighborhood. I'm coming up to see you." And I said, "Well, what for, man? This is the boss coming to my apartment." And the doorman let him up, and I opened the door, and he went, "I guess you know why I'm here." And I said, "I guess." It was like kind of like a real hit. I said, "I guess so." And he told me, and he was very vague. He said, train store, and blah, 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 blah. And, he told me that there was one guy, Mikey Parmisi, from the first season, and he was the only guy that really fought. He kept trying to talk him out of killing him. He came up with different storylines. Well, what about this? And what about that? And what about if his twin brother comes back? So everybody find out a different way. But yeah, it was sad. It was sad because, we were all friends and you're no longer on the show. Some guys like Big Pussy got killed off early and some other people. So it was a sad thing.
And Steve, you made it to the next to last episode, if I remember right. Okay, so that was good. Thank you, Ryan. Our next question comes from John McManus. We think that we have a few Johns on the phone. The problem is that people aren't always logged in with their own name. Okay, so you can hear me. So you seem to work very closely with Bridget Monahan. At times, and at times with Donnie Wahlberg. First, are you really close off camera? And second, can you share a favorite moment with each of them?
We're friends. Yeah. I mean, I'm on the show 5 years, done 85 episodes. I mean, we don't hang out much, but, we're friends off camera. It's not like The Sopranos. That was like a once in a lifetime thing, where everyone was we were younger and we went out and hung around and, did that. This is more, everyone got families here. You go in, you do your job, kind of regular workplace. They're both a lot of fun to work with. Non-Hollywood, they live back here in New York. And so there's none of that kind of LA kind of stuff. And they both do a lot of charity work. They're good, good people, regular people, man. You're just no different than everybody in the audience here, They're just regular people that happen to. I always say I'm a regular guy that has a good job, That's it,
All right.
I enjoy working with both of them.
John McManus.
I work with her mostly, and I really enjoy her company a lot, and I enjoy working with her. She's a very underrated actress,
Steve, I don't know if you can see me.
Yeah.
We see you. John, do you have something else that you want to ask since we found you?
No, I just want to let him know how we're such big fans here. Great show, probably the best show on television today. Thanks so much.
Appreciate that. It's a great show. It is. Happy to be there.
Okay. Thanks, John. Fighting 73. Our next question goes to Tom Starr, who was also a Fighting 73. For those that don't know, it's graduated in 73. Steve, you met some of the guys. There's Tommy.
How are you?
Hey, Steve, how are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good hat you're wearing. I like it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Always with the Yankee hat. Quick question about Blue Bloods. Does Anthony ever make it to the Reagan dinner table?
Probably not. I've been campaigning to get there. Some cannolis. Let me bring over some cookies.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one. The house is in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. I grew up not far from there. That's where the outside of the house is anyway.
Yeah.
The inside is in the studio, obviously. But I'm trying to get there, but it's a tough nut to crack there.
You do a great job on the show. Love it.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Keeping with the food theme, Sergio Pavone has the next question. There he is, Serge.
How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Steve. How are you? Good to see you. Listen, big fans of Blue Bloods here in my household. We love watching the show. We watch it religiously, and really enjoy watching you play your character too, Anthony. But would love to know where those great-looking sandwiches come from that you eat in the show.
The sandwiches come from a place called Anthony and Son. It's Anthony and Son Panini place. It's in Williamsburg. And what they would do is if it calls for me to eat in the show, they'll call me a few days before and say, what kind of sandwich you want? My order.
That's great.
And then they'll buy probably 20 of them. because every time you shoot, you take a bite out of it, you got to start off with a new one again. So, usually they buy a whole bunch and I get to take a few home. So it's either a supersod provolone, roasted peppers, or turkey, American cheese. It depends what I'm in the mood for that day. But they always call ahead of time. If I'm drinking, I'm usually drinking Manhattan Special coffee soda.
That's great.
That's a
That's our favorite too.
You got them in Jersey, but that's what I'm usually drinking it.
All right. Serge, thank you. My brother-in-law, Sergio Pavone, you met him, Steve. Times. Our next question comes from Steve Kimball. We have Steve Kimball. Steve, how are you?
Hey, Phil. Yeah, nice to meet you, Steve. I really enjoy the show, Sopranos and Blue Bloods. Never miss an episode. I was just wondering, what do you enjoy playing more, Bobby Bacala or Anthony Abitamarco?
They're both a lot of fun. I kind of like Anthony. Kind of like him. He's a funny guy. You don't give a shit. He's old school. He's very smart, street smart. Kind of like him. The Sopranos, I had to wear the fat suit the first couple of years. Then I got fat enough on my own the third year. I didn't have to wear one. At least I like having cops coming up to me, giving me compliments as opposed to fat, sweaty mob guys during the Sopranos. So I kind of like this.
Well, Steve, I hope to see you at Il Cortile again.
Yes, let's hope so. Let's hope so.
Good to meet you.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Speaking of cops, we have one of our favorite cops. You know his father, Richie Giordano. We're going to hear from Sergeant of the Port Authority Police, Anthony Giordano.
I don't think he has video.
Can't find Anthony?
Wait, there we go.
Okay, I think we got him.
There he is. He's in the.
You, Anthony, in there?
That Anthony Giordano?
I don't think so.
Well, you got a question, Anthony, whoever you are?
I'll read Anthony's question.
Anthony,
he said, growing up, I was a huge Sopranos fan.
Hey, Phil, do you not hear me?
Bloods fan. He's asking a question. How difficult was it to re-character yourself and your screen image from a Jersey mobster to a New York cop?
Isn't there a fine line between a mobster and a cop? Isn't that what they say?
Well,
No.
We have a federal judge on the line.
Like I said, I love boat rolls, obviously. And I also have played a whole bunch of different stuff besides cops and mobsters. But I like that Anthony is a good guy and wants to do the right thing. He's got a rough way about him. He's kind of sloppy, little Columbo-ish. He's kind of smart. I like that he is about doing the right thing as opposed to mobsters, which we rooted for the Sopranos and Tony Soprano, but he was a murderer. And he was a cheater and a murderer and a thief. And all these guys we love, but we know deep down, when it comes down to it, they're really bad people. It's all fun and games, Paulie Walnuts cracking jokes and Uncle Junior, but when it comes down to it, you see them murder and kill and cut guys up. So, I could relate much more to Anthony than a mob guy.
And that's a good role for you. You play it well. I mean, you're a New York guy, a Brooklyn guy. So I think that's perfect for you. But you've always told stories about how The Sopranos was once in a lifetime deal, and how you guys always went out and enjoyed yourself, and you guys toured, and it's just something that's it's you described it perfectly. Once in a lifetime. Most actors never have anything like that. Now you're in 2 hit shows now.
And I actually was in a 3rd hit show, a high school show with Molly Ringwald right after The Sopranos. I was on that for 5 years, where I just played a suburban dad. I shot that in LA, and I enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun, and it was right after The Sopranos. So after the mob stuff, obviously everyone wants to offer you just other mob roles. So this was just a regular guy, suburban guy with a teenage kid. And I enjoyed that a lot. Also, I've been very lucky, and a lot of it's luck. So you hear all these actors pontificating, pontificating how great they are. And, and there is a lot of luck involved. Of course, once you get the job, you got to deliver. But and it doesn't matter who you know, because just like playing ball, if you were a Steinbrenner, you still got to be able to hit the curveball, or you don't make the team. So that only gets you so far. Who you know, but there is luck involved. I mean, I'm sure there's many a great actor who's tending bar and waiting tables and doing other things, but right place, right time, and you got to be prepared when you do get the opportunity to deliver.
So as any profession, and as you say, luck is a big part of it, no matter what it is. But you did a great job of not being pigeonholed into the mob scene, because, we see guys that the only thing that they do is mob roles, big or small. But I mean, you really did an about face and kind of turned it around, that you were able to do a completely different character, to your credit.
Yeah, thanks. Listen, I get offered all those mob things that I don't like to do, because they're not very good, most of them. Most mob movies suck. They got a handful of good ones, Goodfellas, The Irishman. Some people liked it, some people didn't. Of course, you got Casino and The Godfather and some classic great ones, but not too many good ones since The Sopranos. Few and far between. Most of them are kind of D movies. It's the same old crap. I'll kill you, or fuck you, or break your head. I don't want to do that. That doesn't interest me.
Sorry, Monsignor. All right.
Come on, he's heard me curse 1,000,000 times. Come on, Danny boy.
Our next question comes from Mike Coco. There he is. Hi, Mike.
All right. Hey, everyone. Great event, Phil. And Steve, so on The Sopranos, too, who would you say is the most different in real life from the character that they played? And then who is basically the same person in real life than they played on the show?
Uncle Junior is nothing like him. Dominic Chianese is the sweetest, softest, nicest man you'll ever meet in your life. Michael Imperioli is a Buddhist. He does meditation classes. He's my partner in the podcast. He's nothing like Christopher. And the guy who is the guy is Paulie Walnuts.
Of course.
It's no different. That's the guy. As a matter of fact, there was a story. They were trying to figure out what Paulie's apartment would look like, and they were racking their brains. They were having meetings. What would his apartment look like? We got to shoot at Paulie's apartment, and they couldn't figure it out. What would this guy's apartment look like? And someone said, let's go to Tony's apartment. The guy is the guy. Let's see what his apartment looks like and duplicate it. And that's exactly what they did. He lives in Bay Ridge, where he's been living for years. And he is a germaphobe. He laughs like that. All the traits the writers wrote to all of our advantage, because he is an incredible character, one of my favorite characters and one of my favorite guys, but he's the closest.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Steve, I know that you're a big sports fan. Looks like you had the Knick game on or something behind you. Obviously, you have the Knick Bulls on. But other than sports, what shows do you like to watch?
I've been watching this Ted Lasso on Apple TV. It's about soccer. I like that. I like Billions. I watch a lot of documentaries. I just saw a great one on Louis Prima on Amazon. I don't watch that many series because
What about your own series? Do you enjoy watching yourself or not watching yourself?
I don't like to watch myself or hear myself. I've never watched a podcast at all. I very rarely watch. I'm watching The Sopranos because the podcast. We have to go over each episode. So I'm watching that for the first time in 20 years. Blue Bloods, I very rarely watch. If there's a scene that I want to see how it turned out, I can't stand to watch myself. I always see something wrong, kind of like you when you ump a game. You watch replays, all the calls you miss, you don't want to see that again.
I don't want to see those again. I see them enough. But yeah, and thank you for bringing that up. But, the other thing is, you threw me with that. You made me lost my train of thought. But so why don't we move to our next question from Vinny Tortorello. We grew up together. Vinny, how are you?
Vinny, how you doing, buddy?
To number 3 school every day together. I think it was what, Vinny, 5-6 miles each day. And what's your question for Steve?
Yes. Can you hear me? Did I unmute myself okay? Is all that stuff good?
I hear you.
Good, Steve. Okay, so obviously I like all your shows. I'm curious with The Sopranos. Was there ever more than one ending filmed or talked about and, decided? I know everybody kind of was like up in the air with the actual ending of, there's all kind of discussion. Did he die? Did he not die? He was crossing Bloomfield Avenue. Did he go back to the Belmont Tavern for more chicken? What was there any other discussion?
Well, first of all, there wasn't any, no fake endings. That's all a lie. There was all kinds of lies, and I kind of got caught up in that when it first happened. Also, one of the Bada Bing girls said, I saw this happen. Steve Perry from Journey said he saw that happen. Nothing happened. Okay? There was no fake endings. I'm sure there was a lot of endings discussed. That I don't know. My opinion, Tony Soprano is alive and well and living in New Jersey. That's my opinion. I guess he left it open to discussion because 13 years later, people are still talking about it and asking about it. But there was no fake endings, no different. The only thing that they did do when Uncle Junior shot Tony, they did a false. Somebody from the crew was selling secrets, and to the Inquirer at the time, and they did a little false thing there, saying Frank Vincent shot him, but that was the only thing, and that wasn't the finale. So there was none of that stuff, and people continue to this day saying that there's fake ones, and I saw it, and I saw this. They're all lying. They're all full of shit.
Thank you, Steve.
Danny hands me.
So, what I was going to say, and I forgot, you kind of threw me off my game a little bit there with the replay, but I'm guessing that as an actor, and like, let's take Blue Bloods, you do a lot of filming, of course, with, just the people that you do, but like umpiring, I'm only seeing the 3 guys that I work with. We meet once a year for a physical. But so, have you ever shot? If you haven't shot with Selleck, do you ever see them? I mean, like, do you ever see the people that you don't shoot with?
You don't see them a lot. Everyone thinks you see each other because you're on the same show. I've been in one scene with Tom Selleck seasons ago. I run into him. I haven't seen him this year, this season. I ran into him, the makeup trailer or getting his hair done or something. We cross paths. I don't see him much. I've worked with every cast member by now, all of them at one time or another. Sometimes you don't see each other for months. Sometimes you don't see each other the whole season. You're working different days, different hours. Even on The Sopranos, you would see each other at the read-through. We used to have a read-through, and you go over the entire script from front to back. So I wouldn't see, say, Michael Imperioli for a month unless at the read-through. Or Lorraine Bracco. I've never been in a scene with Lorraine Bracco. She's only been in scenes with Tony Soprano and Carmela. She didn't work with anyone else, or very few. So, no, you don't see each other a lot of times. It's not that kind of show. You kind of work with who you work with. Not everybody cross paths.
Yeah. And Steve, how has the pandemic affected the shooting of the show?
It's hard. It's really hard. We're in the middle of our 9th episode now. You get tested 3 times a week. You get tested whether you're working or not every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And so far everyone's been safe, and it's hard. The cast, the crew is wearing shields and masks, and it's very, it's not easy. And you shoot, and then you go right back to your dressing room, that kind of stuff,
Yeah. Well, hopefully we're going to be back to normal soon, we hope. And so how about we really put you to work now? We're going to go back to our artist, and then we're going to live auction off the painting of Yogi, Mickey, and Roger. And we wound up, we said we're going to close the auction at 10, the silent auction. There it is, really coming along. So how about if we ask if you intend to bid on this live auction, how about if you make sure that your camera is on, and you could either, let's see how many people we get. And if we really can't keep up with, can't see everybody in order to accept the bid, maybe you can type in the side of the what's it called? The
chat.
The chat. All right. So you can put
Nice.
it in the chat, or hopefully we can see people, and you can just see raise your hand, and we could unmute you, and then we can go from there with the bidding.
So this is obviously one of a kind, right, Phil?
Yeah, this is it.
This is it. You're doing a great job. That's beautiful. Absolutely.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Also, love your work. And I was going over your IMDb page before the special. Before tonight, you might be the only person who's been in. I know I've met who's been in 2 different Muppet Christmas specials.
Yes, that's me.
I love that. That's great.
So I'd rather work with some puppets than people.
Right. Yeah, so we're going to put the final touches on this probably tomorrow, but you can see pretty much how it's coming tonight. And here's a print of a Mickey Mantle painting I did a while ago, just to give people an idea of what my finished work does look like when it's finished. So you can expect the same quality here, but we're getting there.
That is great.
So it is unfinished, Craig. So how much longer do you think that would we're not rushing you, but I'm saying for you to be satisfied with that, how far away are you from that?
I don't know. It depends. It could be, I would say at some point tomorrow. Could be a couple hours, could be most of the day. You never, sometimes, like I said, Mickey's face gave me trouble tonight. I have no idea why. I've painted him more than I probably painted any other human who's ever lived. So, but that it's, sometimes it's like being a ball player. Sometimes you can't explain it.
We're going to ask those that want to bid. let's put your camera on. Those that aren't going to bid, please turn your video off and put yourselves on gallery view so we can see you.
How many
And I
people
think,
are
Steve, we
online?
can start the bidding at $100. How about that? So do we not have anyone that's interested in bidding? We can put it in the silent auction, I guess. Do we have anyone bidding? Nothing in the chat.
You got Thomas Spasato, bid $100.
Okay, there we go. Thanks for kicking it off, Tommy.
Paglia. Michael Malfitano. I don't know what I guess they're all bidding. I don't know. I don't see a figure. Do you, Phil?
I don't see a bid there.
Liz, 250 from Liz Battaglia. Thank you, Liz.
Ah, Liz, my cousin Liz.
Greg's been working his butt off. Come on. Let's up this. This is a one of a kind. 300 from Thomas Passato.
Tommy Spasato up to $300.
Beautiful. Come on. Somebody else. I'm up late here. Come on. Let's make some money. Greg Mahoney is doing a terrific job. One of a kind. Phil kept me waiting like a schmuck. It's all right.
So, yeah, there we go. Michael Malfitano, 325, 350. Richard Young.
Richard, who's helped out with social media. Thomas Banks, 375. Thank you, Thomas. Come on. 500. Jerry Pleshier. Thank you, Jerry. Who's going to give us $600? Don't let this go cheap. Come on. $600. Who's going to give us $6? There we go, Lisbeth.
Liz, my cousin, my little cousin.
There you go. Come on. Who's going to $700? Let's get this up a little bit. Greg is still working. He's going to be working all night long until the wee hours of the morning. He's got a bottle of vodka on his side. He's going to drink all night until we get this done. Right, Greg? There you go. There you go. There we go. 700. Anthony Fitano. Attaboy, Anthony. Thank you. Liz. Come on, Liz. Don't disappear on me. Come on, Liz. Go look in the cookie jar. There's some extra money there. Go in the kitchen. There you go. From the iPhone, 800. Who was that?
Who is that?
Mystery Man. $800. Gil. That's from Gil. All right, Gil. Come on. Anthony, come on back. Liz. Richard, come on back. Anthony Malfitano, $900. Attaboy, Anthony. Anthony's in bed eating donuts, and he's bid
1,000.
Gary Pleshier, $1,000. Wow. Wow. $1,000. Greg, could you whip up another one by the morning? We'll sell 2 of them. 1,000. We got 1,200. 1,200. There's Jerry. Jerry, how you doing, man? I can't hear you. There we go, Anthony.
Here we go, head to head. We're head to head.
1,000, Anthony. You're going to go to 1,100. Come on. What's another 100 laying around the apartment, the house? Come on. Come on. What do we got here? Joe Schmo to everyone. Chindan. What does that mean? Joe Schmo. You gonna come up with some dough? We got Jerry Flesh at 1,000. Come on, Anthony. Last
little brandy. The brandy usually helps beef up the number.
Anthony, $1,100. Come on, Jerry.
Anthony.
Come right back with 1,200. Come on, Jerry. Bank. Boom.
Going in.
Here we go. Boom.
100. Here we go.
Come on, baby. This is like a great
Anthony, take another shot of brandy. It won't hurt as much.
Come on back. We're at $1,200, everybody. Come on. This is great.
To type it in.
This
And
is
I'll wait to push the button. Don't only say once.
all right. We got it. We're at 12. Where we at? Jerry's ready to go. He's ready to pull the trigger. Anthony.
Bring it on, he's saying.
Oh.
I'm telling you to bring it on, Anthony.
100. Come on, Jerry. What are we going to do here? We're going to go to 15?
Yo went to 13 already.
Yo, 1,300.
Oh, God.
Come on.
14?
Got Anthony and Jerry. Let's go to 14. Jerry's ready to cock at 15. Anthony, no. 1,400. Steve Brumming. What do we got, Steve? What's Steve doing?
Keep foaming to everybody.
Jerry, the clock is ticking behind you. I see it.
Yeah.
Tick tock, tick tock. 1,500. Who do we got there? Steve.
1,500.
Steve.
Spinning sun, 1,500.
Steve out of left field. Came out of nowhere. He woke up from a nap and boom, 1,500. Jerry, 17. Give me another 200. 1,700. Come on. Come on. I'm waiting up all night. I'm waking my wife up. She goes to bed at 8 o'clock. Come on.
Tell Lorraine to write that check.
Here too.
A couple of bucks. Anthony, get ready to pull it. Come on, Anthony. It's like watching a horse race. Come on. Father Dan, go to the poor box. Get me a few bucks. What we got? 1,600.
1,600, Anthony.
Look at Anthony. He ain't going down without a fight. Jerry, what do we got, Jerry?
I'm still trying to pay for the $6,000 home plate.
Steve-O, what do we got? You're not going to get enough for $100. I know that.
Off.
Come on, it's like playing poker at night. You're drunk, you're in your underwear. It's just like playing poker. Same thing.
You can see?
For a good cause. Come on.
Ay, ay, ay.
Come on. Steve-O.
That'll help.
This is gonna be due. This is due.
I don't know.
1,600.
1,600 from Steve. Anthony, let's stop typing in. Let's go. Anthony, what do we got?
I'm 16, Steve.
You're 16.
1,650.
Steve is 15.
1,650.
200 people on?
160.
Going once.
1,700, Jerry.
Jerry.
He was.
1,700 for
laying
Jerry.
in the weeds. Jerry was just laying in the weeds.
Yeah.
To drink 2 bottles of wine.
17.
17.
What are we going to do, Anthony? What are we going to do?
Steve, you gonna autograph this thing?
Whatever you want. I'll do whatever you like.
I think.
1,800 from Anthony. 1,800. Look at this. Look at this. I haven't had this much excitement. I couldn't tell you.
It's Anthony's.
More excitement than the whole pandemic. Come on, Steve.
I couldn't be in bed right now.
I understand. Steve, Jerry, what are we going to do here?
Anthony's.
They got a lot of money in New York. We don't have that kind of money in Tennessee.
What do you mean, fit? Where we at? 1,800.
1,800, Anthony, right?
Once. 1,800 going twice. Sold. Anthony Malcolm.
Thank you, Anthony. All this money will help an ALS patient, believe me.
That is fantastic.
Thank you very much.
And working diligently. Thank you very much, Anthony. Seriously.
Good job, Steve.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We'll get your information. And
thank you, guys.
Maybe just send your information on the webpage if you know how to get to that, right? WeFightALS.org. And just send us the information, and then we'll go from there.
Anthony, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, Steve. Nice work.
Now I could go? Can I go yet?
I think now we could all go. We went a little longer than we thought. Remember, there's about 8 minutes left in the silent auction. I want to thank Liz and my sister-in-law Antoinette for taking care of that, keeping the bids current. Remember to refresh your browser. And I want to just thank everybody for this wonderful event. We're sorry we had some technical difficulties, but this is where we're at. And again, we can't wish more that we're back at Nanina's in 2022. And Steve, I know we'll see you there.
I'll see you guys. Thank you very much. You guys be well. Be safe. Take care.
Okay. Good night. And thank you, everyone. Thank you.